was convinced he was above reproach. A husband to many, a television star, the guy tugging all the strings behind the scenes. But when the courtroom doors slammed shut on him, the illusion was gone. No cameras, no staged scenes, just truth. And in that truth, Kody Brown was not a father or a husband or a celebrity. He was a fraud. What transpired within those four walls shook the entire Sister Wives empire. All their secrets, which they attempted to cover up, fought their way back up to the surface. The voice of the judge wasn't booming. It didn't have to be every statement cut with the edge of a knife. The room froze, as if even the walls were inclined towards listening. At the center was Kody Brown, his golden locks, so painstakingly lit for television, seemed weary and lackluster under the bright overhead lights. This was not a sheened TLC soundstage. This was not the pre-approved questions family couch. This was life, and real-life consequences had finally caught up. He moved restlessly at the defendant's table, his eyes scanning as if for an exit that didn't exist. His lip curled and briefly opened, showing panic, or possibly just the need to inhale. For years, he had thought he was the master of his own destiny. Today, that delusion fell apart. Across the room was Robin Brown, mascara smudged on her cheeks, her body shaking. She couldn't even meet Kody's eye. Her attorney stepped forward, saying something quiet in her ear, but she shook her head, her hand clapped over her lips. Nothing could have readied her for this. Christine sat in the front row, serene and unblinking. Her demeanor was frozen stillness, her eyes a silent message. I told you this day would arrive. Next to her, Janelle folded her arms, lips on the verge of curling into a withheld smile. For her, it wasn't nerves, it was vindication. Even the gallery, the journalists, bloggers, court sketchers, remained suspended, fixated on every twitch, every hint of feeling. The atmosphere was heavy, like a pot waiting to boil over. And then the crack, the gavel of the judge came down with a deafening bang. This court will come to order. Kody's voice grated shaky. As he stood to object, his hands trembled as he attempted to hide them under the table. Your Honor, this case is unjust, I believe. You don't get to believe in this courtroom, the judge spat, cutting him off with a single breath. You'll talk when you are addressed. You'll sit when instructed, comprehend. Kody stilled, staring. Yes, Your Honor. The pressure intensified, thick and relentless. No more dysfunctional reality show family here. No more. This was deception, betrayal, justice. The clerk rose, his voice firm as charges rained into the air. Misrepresentation of marital income, concealment of finances, violation of agreements within families, misappropriation of funds intended for children's education, deceptive contracts under false business shields, each charge struck like a punch. Kody's gaze flicked to the cameras lined up at the rear. Not TLC cameras, not producers holding out for a retake. These were news channels. There would be no cut, no break, no saving edit. Mr. Brown, the judge said sternly. How do you plead? The room waited with bated breath. Kody paused, his lawyer prodding him with a Lifeway's wary hand. At last, his jaw clicked into place. Not guilty. The judge was not impressed. Noted. But the prosecution were already standing, a woman whose eyes snapped and whose voice held no doubt. Your Honor, the state will show that Mr. Brown used legal loopholes for years. Not out of faith, but greed. He exploited the women and children who believed in him, secreted money, controlled contracts, making sure only he and Robin profited. She flipped open her binder, a dictionary, thick book, and pointed to the first document. Exhibit A, a 2012 signed agreement to pay equal shares of TLC revenue to all wives. But since 2019, all that money was funneled into an LLC belonging only to Kody and Robin Brown. Gasps were heard. Christine's fingers clenched on the wooden bench. Janelle leaned forward, her face inscrutable. Even Robin looked shocked, her lips parting as if she could hardly believe it herself. The prosecutor's voice was steady. "We would like this entered into evidence." "Approved," the judge replied unhesitantly. Kody's attorney leaped to his feet, agitated. "Your Honor, this was a spiritual agreement, not a legal one. The family arrangements were religious, not binding. Did the bank view it as spiritual when it took in the deposits?" The judge retorted tartly. "This is a court of law, not a reality television show. Your client used the law when it was convenient for him and disregarded it when it was inconvenient. We continue." Kody's expression changed. The charisma he once had played out for millions, now being overpowered by something sinister. Robin glanced at him, seeking eye contact, searching for some glimmer of reassurance, but he refused to look at her. "Exhibit B," said the prosecutor, rifling through a page. Emails between Mr. Brown and one of the network executives, his words about himself. "Focus more on Robin and her children. The others are fading anyway." These emails were signed at a time when Christine and Janelle were still working full-time. Christine glanced over at Janelle. They both knew, but neither was going to say it. The hurt had been written down. Kody leapt to his feet, palms slapping against the table. His voice broke as he yelled, "This is a witch hunt. They're just jealous because I moved on." The judge's voice didn't rise. It fell lower, drawing the air tighter, demanding silence. "Sit down." Kody complied, and for the first time he seemed small. The courtroom held its breath. Tense, the clerk barely sat back down before the prosecutor held up her hand. "Your Honor, the state calls Janelle Brown to the stand." A ripple passed through the room, one that was quiet but undeniable. This was not another witness. This was Janelle Brown, ex-wife, businesswoman, and one of the cornerstones of the Sister Wives brand. She was not a supporting player in Kody's narrative. She had been his equal. Janelle stood up. She glided smoothly to the witness stand. Dark teal top, no makeup, her face bearing no show, only dignity. No glamour was needed. Her very presence commanded every eye. Her eyes weren't angry, but bright, keen, as if she'd waited decades for this exact moment. She was sworn in by the bailiff. She sat, hands clasped, voice steady. "Mrs. Brown," the prosecutor started, "describe to the court how your financial agreement with the defendant was managed." Janelle's gaze darted to Kody, then back. "Yes, for most of our marriage, we had a system. All the wives put money into one family fund. That is how we paid for everything. Kids' tuition, mortgage, groceries, the works. And who controlled that fund? Kody did." Her voice grew tighter, but consistent. "We trusted him." The prosecutor leaned forward. "When did that happen?" Janelle opened a folder, removing papers. 3 years ago, I saw TLC royalty checks missing from our reports. Initially, I thought it was a mistake. When I asked Kody, he brushed it off, said he redid things for tax purposes. "Did you trust him?" "I wanted to," she said gently, "but something didn't feel right." On the monitor in the courtroom, Exhibit C was shown: bank statements, transfer records, IRS files. The screen radiated evidence, more than $164,000 stealthily drawn from the family account into a new entity, Brown Integrity LLC. The owners listed Kody and Robin Brown. Christine let out an audible gasp. Robin sat forward, her face white, whispering. "No," her voice shook. Kody's attorney sprang up, outraged. "Objection, Your Honor. These are out of context. My client had complete discretion as head of the household." The judge raised a hand, his face slicing. "Overruled. And let me make one thing clear. Religious patriarchy is not a defense in this court." The prosecutor turned back to Janelle. What did you do when you found out? I stood up to him, Janelle said calmly. He said it was none of my concern, that I wasn't actually his wife anymore. Not like Robin was, that things had changed. A murmur of shock went around the gallery. Journalists wrote angrily. Robin clapped her hand over her mouth, lips shaking. Your Honor, the prosecutor continued, this is not a family feud. This is planned deceit. Mr. Brown exercised power, fame, and religious mantras to divert assets away from wives he discarded. This isn't spiritual leadership. This is money manipulation. Janelle's face was serene, but her voice became weightier. I made that money. I shot every season. I constructed gyms, brokered real estate. I labored. And the moment I pushed back, he cut me off. The judge's head came forward. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to say to that? Kody stood up slowly. His voice, which had once been theatrical and authoritative, now lacked sincerity. I was trying to make things easy. We were growing apart. I didn't think they'd want to be included any longer. The judge's eyes narrowed further. Did you ask them? Kody's head fell. Number. So instead of communication, you opted for concealment. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, Kody grumbled, from the gallery. Christine's voice sliced through. But you did. The judge's eyes moved. Miss Brown, do you have something to say? Christine rose firm and unflappable. I'd like to testify. The room was filled with shock. She strode forward, intentional, like a general entering war. Sworn in, she opened her folder and held up a paper. Your Honor, this is a duplicate of an agreement we all signed in 2014. It states that all sister wives' income, no matter who receives it, is to be divided equally. The prosecutor stepped in. Do you recognize these signatures? Yes, mine. Janelle's, Meri's, Robin's, and Kody's. And was this contract ever terminated? Number was it honored in recent years? Christine's voice wavered. Number, the judge gestured, and the clerk collected the document. The prosecutor stood before the bench. Your Honor, it is not simply about money. It is about trust. Mr. Brown didn't simply conceal assets. He broke a vow, spiritual and contractual. He selected one wife over the others, and then constructed legal fences to ensure that that is what it remained. Then something no one saw coming. Robin's voice cracked through the quiet. Wait. She breathed. Head snapped around. I didn't know about this. I thought it was for taxes. That is what Kody said. All eyes in the courtroom turned to Kody Brown. He had reported to them that the others were indifferent now, that Christine and Janelle wanted out, that the funds didn't make any difference. But when Christine suddenly came back at him, her voice angry with incredulity, it was obvious he had misled even Robin. We never reduced our efforts, Christine burst out. We never slackened. The judge's gavel cracked like thunder. This is not reality television, he warned. But then, with the faintest glimmer of irony, he added, if it were, I'd say we've reached the climax. A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the room, but it only underscored the weight in the air. Kody leaned back in his chair, sweat glistened his forehead. The years of domination, of balancing deceptions and allegiances, seemed to fall on him all at once. For the first time, he appeared old. He appeared tiny. The judge rested his forearms on the bench. Public image has well rewarded you, Mr. Brown. But now we lift the curtain, and the truth is much less complimentary. He let the silence hang, heavy, then proceed. Christine rose. Her steps were steady, her shoulders squared, her expression unwavering. She carried herself not like a victim, not even like a witness, but like a woman with nothing left to lose. Everyone in the courtroom straightened. Not because the judge told them to, but because something about her presence demanded it. She wasn't crying. She wasn't upset. She was cold as ice, like a woman who'd already seen her home burn to ash, and now stood there with the match she never lit. Christine sat down. Out of her bag, she pulled a worn piece of paper, aged to yellow, edges crumpled from years of use. It wasn't glittery, but what it stood for would change everything. This, she declared, voice unflinching, is a copy of our family financial agreement. Dated 2014, Kody's suggestion, as a matter of fact. He said we had to have it to make things equal, that if we were going to be one family, we would have to behave as such. The prosecutor moved in. And what did this agreement do? Christine turned, facing the jury. Her voice did not shake. That all the money from TLC and associated projects would be divided equally among all the wives. Whether anyone worked more, whether anyone shot more, it was designed to protect everybody, particularly the children. And did you have faith in that deal? Christine's expression turned cold. I had more faith in that than I ever had in Kody. Several of the jurors exchanged uncomfortable glances. And what did happen to that trust? Christine offered a small, unhappy smile, the sort of smile begotten from betrayal, accepted a long time ago. He dismantled it steadily. Quietly, Robin's house came first, her children's needs came first, her comfort always first. And then, one day, the family account was just gone. The courtroom was silent. Only the muffled sound of Robin sobbing into her handkerchief breached the quiet. Christine held the paper aloft. I am not here only for this letter. I am here because he led us to think we were equal, until we were not useful anymore. Objection! Kody's attorney sprang up. Emotional manipulation irrelevant. Overruled, the judge replied in a chilly tone. Christine fixed her eyes on Kody now, her voice cut with greater precision than any prosecutor's. You said I was dramatic, that I didn't get money. You gaslit me so deeply I apologize for asking about groceries. Gasps filled the air, even from the jury box. Christine braced herself. And then I discovered about the new LLC, the transfers. Robin claims she didn't know. Perhaps she didn't. But I do know this, we were no longer paid. She wasn't. The prosecutor placed a printed ledger in front of her. Do you see these royalty transfers? Christine looked over. Yes? Is your name listed as an owner? Number. Were you notified of this change? Number so, in your opinion. The prosecutor addressed the jury. Did Mr. Brown willfully redirect income away from you? Yes. And did he do so without your authority? Yes. Christine's fists clenched the paper. He ceased being our husband long ago. But what he did with that money that made him a thief? The judge looked at the evidence, his head nodding slowly. This is in line with what we've experienced up to now, Mr. Brown. Your turn. Kody pulled at his collar, his voice cracking. She is angry. They all are. They're manipulating this. We had communication breakdowns. Yes. Things went awry, but I was trying to keep the family intact. Christine's eyes narrowed. By taking all the money, you left me, Kody shouted, his face scowling. You made it impossible. The gavel came down. Speak to this court, Mr. Brown, not your ex-wife. Kody's voice cracked tense. I didn't defraud anyone. I was hiding assets. We're a high net worth family. I had to cut down exposure. The LLC was for our name, but it listed just you and Robin as owners. The prosecutor cut in brusquely. Was that a mistake or a tactic? Kody hesitated. His silence spoke volumes. The prosecution advanced. Your Honor, if it please, the state will present one last bit of evidence, an audio tape, voluntarily submitted by Meri Brown. A murmur shook the room. The judge nodded gravely. Proceed. The clerk hit play. Kody's voice rang out in the courtroom. Clear, condescending, identifiable. Listen, I don't care what they have to say. As soon as Christine and Janelle are out of here, I've got this in the bag. The network is going to need me. Robin and I are the stars now. All the money will be under her name eventually. Cleaner that way. The rest are just sucking me dry, whining all the time. The words slashed through the quiet, like a knife. Gasps erupted through the gallery like firecrackers. Christine clapped her hand over her mouth. Robin appeared pale. Kody's complexion turned white. "Where did you get that?" he snarled, his voice raw. The prosecutor didn't flinch. "From a call you made to a production assistant? She was working with Meri Brown. She has had it for more than a year." Kody leaned back, hands over his face. Christine leaned forward in the direction of the judge. "That is him. That is real Kody Brown, not the groomed confessional one, not the television, wise father-husband. That man in the distance, that is who he is." The judge's tone was serious. "This court has witnessed betrayal, but it has seldom been recorded so completely." Kody's attorney struggled to find an out. "Your Honor, this was a private line. It was recorded legally," the judge cut in, "and submitted voluntarily. It stays." Kody's head dropped lower. And then, a voice from the back. Strong, steady. "Your Honor, I'd like to testify." Every head turned. Meri Brown, the wife Kody had humiliated, ghosted, discarded, while still parading her for cameras. Even Christine blinked in shock. "She's here." The prosecutor froze, startled, then recovered. The judge studied Meri for a long moment before nodding. "Approach." As Christine stepped down, she and Meri passed. Their eyes met, not as competitors, but as survivors. Meri did not look at Kody, but he stared back at her with desperation, as if a man saw the last exit drive by. She reached the stand, she swore in. She opened her purse, and the courtroom steeled itself, because everyone felt it. The last blow was about to fall. She climbed onto the witness stand with a sort of quiet dignity, as if she had just laid down a weight too heavy to bear. No tears, no anger, just calm strength. "Please give your name to the court," the prosecutor requested. "Meri Brown," she stated. Pause. "I was his first wife, spiritually married in 1990, legally married until we divorced so he could adopt Robin's children. After that, I was nothing more than an afterthought." Kody winced. The judge leaned forward, pen poised. "And what do you wish to bring before the court today, Mrs. Brown?" Meri pulled out of her bag a small black pouch and placed a USB drive on the table. "This," she said firmly, "phone recordings, emails, screenshots, evidence of what Kody was doing behind all of our backs." The bailiff plugged it in. A flicker, and the courtroom monitor sprang to life. The first document was an email, directly from Kody's own account. Subject line: "Rebranding Kody and Robin as the new family image." The email was blunt: "Christine and Janelle are yesterday's news. Meri is stuck in the past. Viewers are sick of the sob stories. The future is Robin, the younger kids. That's where the franchise goes next." Silence, heavy. Robin's mouth fell open. Even Kody looked blindsided, muttering frantically to his lawyer. Meri, though, stayed steady. That letter, she told him, was 6 months before Christine departed. He'd already discarded her, already begun grooming someone new. The prosecutor pointed to the screen. "Did he ever discuss this with you?" "No," Meri answered. "Actually, he barely spoke to me at all, unless we were on camera. Off camera, I didn't exist. On camera, he used my name and face to keep the brand going." The next recording played, a tape, Kody's voice, unmistakable. "I don't need Meri around, but I can't let her go. The optics wouldn't be good. She is helpful, that is all." Gasps circulated around the room. Christine slapped her hand over her mouth. Janelle sat back, shocked. Meri didn't even blink. That was with the TLC producer, she stated levelly. They sent it to me after they left. Were you exploited, Mrs. Brown? The prosecutor demanded. Yes, for ratings, for sympathy, for legal protection, but I was never loved. Robin glared at Kody, voice trembling. Is that true? Kody leapt to his feet, fury boiling over. Objection. This is personal. They resent me because I moved on. The gavel boomed like thunder. Sit down, Mr. Brown. This isn't a reunion show. This is federal court. The gallery chuckled darkly. Even the jury looked exhausted. And then the screen lit up again. Your Honor, the prosecutor said, we'd like to submit one final recording. The recording started in the middle of the conversation, Kody speaking once more. The LLC is sealed up tight. Only my name, Robbins, is on it. The others have no claim. That is the genius of it. They were never legally married to me. They can cry all they want, but when it is time to cut profits, it is just Robin and me, clean controlled. Christine looked devastated, Janelle whispered. So that was the plan all along. Objection, Kody's attorney snapped. That was private, taken out of context. Overruled. The judge interrupted. Consent was given. Go on. Kody slumped into his chair. White Robin's eyes overflowed with tears. Was I part of this too? She whispered. Kody remained silent. The prosecutor resumed questioning Meri. Why now? Why come forward? Meri crossed her hands, then looked up. Because I used to think silence was loyalty, that remaining was strength. But silence is what allowed him to get away with it all these years. And if I remain silent today, all the things he did to me, to Christine, to Janelle, to our children, it will happen again. Perhaps not on television, but in private, I will not remain silent anymore. A silence. Then the faint rustle of applause, before the judge's stern gaze quieted it. But the message was made. This was no longer Kody Brown's stage. The judge pointed forward, tone cutting. We have contracts, we have recordings, we have emails. This isn't gossip, Mr. Brown. This is fraud, pure intentional fraud. Kody's attorney scrambled. Your Honor, we move to dismiss on religious freedom and family autonomy grounds. The judge's eyes grew cold. Religious freedom safeguards your right to worship. It does not provide you with the right to manipulate contracts, conceal assets, or take advantage of loopholes at the expense of ruining the people who trusted you. The gavel came down again. I'll issue my verdict in the morning. Court is adjourned. Bang! Kody Brown's world came crashing down in that moment. Christine exited first, her head held high. Janelle exited next, silent and resolute. Robin sat stone, still looking into her lap, loyalty now broken. And Meri smiled. For the first time in years, it seemed real. But the verdict the following day, the words that would fall from the judge's lips, was on the verge of shaking the sister wives' empire to its core. The courtroom was packed once more. Morning light poured over the wooden benches, but it wasn't just another day, it was the end of an era. There were no cameras present this time, no producers cowering in the shadows, no manufactured reality television show, just one judge, a pile of papers, and one man, Kody Brown, waiting to find out if the world he created was about to come tumbling down. He hadn't slept, anyone could tell. His eyes were sunken, his jaw clamped, the weight of years bearing down upon him. This wasn't the suave father from TLC confessionals anymore. This was a man backed into a corner by his own decisions. He sat by himself. Robin wasn't with him. Not this time. Across the room sat Janelle and Christine side by side. They weren't gloating. They weren't even smiling. But their serenity on their faces said it all. For the first time in years, they possessed the power without having to lift a finger. Then Meri, unobtrusive, consistent, her footsteps ringing as she came in just before the judge. The room hummed at her arrival. Everybody knew what part she had yesterday. She was the one who finalized it. "Y'all rise," the bailiff cried as the gavel came down. The room was silent. Judge Ellsworth entered, files clutched in his hand, glasses perched low on his nose, his face a mask. He moved slowly. He didn't have to hurry. The tension was suffocating, as if the bomb ticked somewhere under the floor. He spoke at last, his voice even, but as hard as steel. "Evidence has been heard by this court, testimony about which has been reviewed, audio recordings, financial documents, business contracts, and filings related to the Sister Wives brand. And quite frankly, Mr. Brown," the judge gazed up at Kody, unblinking, "I am distressed." The words hit like hammer blows. Deeply troubled by the abuse of trust. Deeply troubled by the manipulation of family in the name of religion. And most of all, deeply troubled by your intentional scheme to distance and financially drain the women you once promised to love. Kody did not respond. He did not need to. His silence spoke more loudly than any words. Christine sat stock, still, jaws set in a stone-like expression. Janelle's face was prepared for anything, and Meri, she did not even blink. The judge continued, "This court is not here to adjudicate over sacred unions or private betrayals, but when betrayal breaches into money trickery, when it is fraud, this court must act." He raised a sheet of paper and read from it. From 2019 to 2023, the defendant siphoned $417,832 out of a jointly owned family LLC into a private business listed only in his and Robin Brown's name. He did it without the written approval of any other partners. The defendant also profited off Christine, Janelle, and Meri Brown's likenesses for media and promotional purposes, pay the women never saw. He stopped. Then firmly, "This, ladies and gentlemen, is textbook fraud." The words hung in the air. Gasps spread throughout the courtroom. Christine looked over at Janelle. Janelle's mouth was wide open, still shocked despite preparing herself for the worst.